personal branding is the singular most slept on marketing tactic that any founder or CEO in Australia or in the globe can use right now. Rather than trying to build your own parade, find a parade that exists and go and lead it. So I think when people are building a brand, they think about it like, I got to build this thing from scratch. Whereas the pros go, there's a community being undervalued, underserved. Let's show up in a way that's authentic to them and build a brand around that community and lead that parade better than anyone else. Never has community been so important. Never has having a figurehead or a personal brand or a key person of influence for your company been so important. And if you don't want to do it for your business, find someone who does, put that person in the spotlight. And the next era is really the community taking the reins. I don't know how that looks, but it's definitely heading in that direction.
You interviewed Dan Martell recently.
Yes.
Curious to understand this. So after meeting him, sharing notes with him, I guess being in a reciprocal learning environment, what were your key takeaways?
I think Dan strikes me as a person who truly cares about others. You know, his background, his youth, what he went through is quite an interesting story about how he was essentially stealing cars and went to prison and then got out and learned how to code and program. And that obsessive nature of his, he was able to then pour it into using his skill to develop tech and then build a business off that. And I love stories where people have kind of no chance in hell of succeeding and have built their own success. And I find that people like him who have built what they have from literally nothing or from sub nothing, they tend to have a lot of care for others. And I think that what strikes me about him is he just genuinely cares about people.
Yeah.
So when he came in and we met his team and we sat down and we started talking and hanging out, it was just genuinely good energy. And I think that I met a lot of people that stature and there can be facades or masks, but he just seems to be legitimately the person that he presents himself online to be. And I think when you present yourself online in such a good way, people have a nervousness around surely they can't be like that in person, but he's exactly what you would expect. The biggest lesson I got from him, I think, is just he genuinely believes that anyone can achieve, a success and build a business. We've had other people on the podcast that have said otherwise, but he genuinely believes it. He thinks anyone could do it if they just put their mind to it. Yeah. And I like his just raw optimism. It's contagious. Yeah.
When he was here, I spent 3 days with a small circle of people with him.
Yeah.
And my biggest takeaway might sound cliche, was just mindset.
Yeah.
Like what you just said, the way the lens he looks out of and the aperture around his perspective on life and how he responds to things. His mindset is totally different to other humans.
Yeah, it's like radical optimism.
Yes.
And slightly delusional. And to the point where, clearly he is surrounded himself with people that are looking to do more in life. And I think that, as an entrepreneur, that's the most exciting thing, is to be surrounded by people that have a radical optimism like you do. And I'm noticing that the culture here in Australia is shifting in that direction, which is great. I think, there's kind of the old guard of business in Australia that they're more apprehensive of the new generation of business, where everything's digitally portrayed. You're wearing your heart on your sleeve. You're out there. You're public. You're showing the raw vernacular behind the scenes. And he's kind of got an edge because he's got the experience of the old guard of business.
Yeah.
Of Silicon Valley and tech and startups and successful exits and stuff like that. And then he's just got this radical, rebellious spirit to go, I'm just going to give you guys everything that you can get at the top and more, and just go fully public. But he just went all in on personal brands. He hired, from my understanding, 13 people that are full-time just producing media for him. And in 16 months, he's got 3.6 million followers. And that's not because of luck or because of skill. It's because he went all in.
Yeah.
He found every 1%er with him and his team to get the podcast to succeed, to get his content to succeed, to smash multiple platforms at the same time. I think you're seeing the beginnings of the new generation of personal brands, where you're seeing people that are giving it all away for free, publicly, consistently, at scale and at volume.
I brought up Dan because I see him he dominated his category of SaaS originally. He built and sold companies in SaaS. He executed. And then I want to get your feedback on this. He's now diversifying. I've got many founders I know who are part of his, I think, elite coaching group, which is just general business acumen. people who are in fitness who are in his coaching programs. What's your view on like when you nail your niche and you're seen as that person like Dan was in SaaS? At what point do you like start to pivot and diversify? Like, is that a good strategy?
That's a really good question. I think it depends for each individual. I think Gary Vee said it best, and I wish I could have said this first, but he said, you are your niche. So if you take someone like Joe Rogan, who loves bow hunting, who loves UFC, who loves comedy, who also loves like conspiracy theories and deep conversations, like how is he able to simultaneously, I guess, play all these different instruments and still have a successful audience? I think that to master a niche requires you to be genuinely enthusiastic, genuinely passionate, and genuinely like completely immersed in that environment. And for someone like Dan Martell, who's extremely healthy and fit, extremely well adept at business, extremely great with SaaS and tech startups, extremely great at venture capital, like these are all native to him. And I think that he has a great way of being a Swiss Army knife. And I think that oftentimes when people are starting their journey and they don't have a background in business, they don't have a background in deep domain expertise and all these different things, they try to be too many things. So I think that you have to, in many ways, shapes and forms, to dominate multiple categories, you have to be given permission. So like if you look at Joe Rogan, you're like, well, the guy's extremely fit, does jujitsu. We give him permission to talk about fighting. He's extremely funny and can prove that he can get on stage and do an amazing set. So we give him permission to do that. It's almost like the public give you permission to play. And you can dominate multiple niches at the same time, but you have to find a nice way to kind of bring them together, but you are the niche. The challenge is if you're interested in a lot of stuff, but you're not a deep domain expert and you don't have the reps and the credibility and the relevance to talk about it, the market's just going to reject it. So in some ways, shapes and forms, like you have to kind of earn your way into the niches or the multiple fields you want to be known for.
When I was observing your journey, like Rival, did that start like 4.5 years ago?
Yeah, arguably, really, probably. I took it seriously as of about 4 years ago.
Okay, because I mean, I don't understand like branding agencies, right? But if I look at that from a helicopter view, like a lot of dinosaurs, they probably don't go outbound. They're probably just getting, inbound coming in because they've just got these legacy relationships. So you got these legacy branding agencies, and then you come in. New dude on the block just runs in. And then I was looking at like, and this is just my observation, so you might have different feedback. I was like, how have you crushed it so hard? And I thought, number one, educational material. Like which branding agencies out there fucking throwing out educational resource? No one, you. I mean, I could be wrong, but I just looked at you.
Arguably correct, yeah.
Number two is you've taken this founder-led approach. Like we get to hear from you as an expert, like learn from you, be led by you. And I don't see other branding agencies like taking that approach. And I feel like you've just like crushed it so hard.
Yeah, I think you've nailed it there. Like one of the fastest, let me rephrase this. One of the most effective tools that we have is my personal brands. And, this might sound like narcissism or hubris or arrogance, but it's because of me. And what I mean by that is by myself and my team working together on my personal brands, my personal identity, my storytelling, producing media, whether it be a long format podcast like this or short format Instagram content, whatever the delivery method is irrelevant. The fact that it's me showing up and saying, I'll give it to you for free is a powerful tool. And I think that personal branding is the singular most slept on marketing tactic that any founder or CEO in Australia or in the globe can use right now, because it's been proven that, paid media is nowhere near as effective as it was 5 years ago. But what is proven to be tremendously effective right now is someone who's a deep domain expert at a topic or a few topics that is giving literally all the keys away for free in a way that's delivered better than anything that you can find directly on YouTube. So like, I think in the last 4 years, we've just stolen all of our competitors' lunch and ate it in front of them, because I'm the only founder that's going on the internet and saying, this is how you design a logo. This is how you build a brand strategy. This is how you figure out your target audience. Here you go. It's all here for free. And then, the argument I'm forever having with other agency owners or more of these legacy businesses is like, well, you're giving away all your IP. Why would people possibly pay you? You're just giving it all away and your competitors are going to steal it. And my thesis on that is like, if I give it all away for free, I'm top of mind. And if I'm top of mind and they're serious about building a brand, they'll come talk to me first.
Yeah.
And the majority, even to today, about 86% of our lead generation is directly through my Instagram.
Wow.
And that's feeding 36 employees in a global company. And I always have this argument as well. People are like, CEOs and founders aren't on Instagram. Bullshit.
Yeah.
Like I got Culture Kings and Nutrition Warehouse, which are two massive brands here in Australia, through Instagram directly from the founders. They just wanted to chat. And it's not about selling in the DMs. It's about starting a conversation.
Yes.
And if you make really good conversation, if you make really good content, you'll make a really good conversation starter. And that's all you need to start leveraging better relationships to feed your company.
What impact did Culture Kings have on your business?
Culture Kings was an interesting one because I can't take all the credit. Like Simon, he's an absolute visionary. He's a pioneer. He has impeccable taste. He knows how culture works. He knows how the youth think. He knows how to harness subject matter into the zeitgeist to get people to be hype and fanatical about something, whether it's him getting Drake to come into the shop and then using that for marketing, or whether it's Justin Bieber or Snoop Dogg or whatever. Like he was just phenomenal at leveraging culture. I just was able to help him, orchestrate it into a guideline to deploy into his team. And I think for him, he has a lot of material and IP in his mind, and he's said it for years. And he had documentation previously, but we were just able to kind of help him distill it into a more crystallized version, so that as a founder, he could better delegate to his team. But what that did for me was, like, I remember sitting at my desk, opening up my Instagram, seeing a DM from Simon Beard and going, I'm pretty sure that's the Culture Kings founder. Surely not. Clicked on it. It was. Panicked a little bit. And then, it was like a pinch me moment. That was the moment when we engaged with them that I realized, oh, okay, I can absolutely crush it all the way to the top. That was kind of like my green light, my permission to play. We're actually better than we think we are. Like, who else can't we brand? So like, I think from that day forward, I really started to take shit pretty serious. Yeah. I really started to look at our team and go, guys, like, how do we take this to another level? How do we upskill ourselves? How do we find the best talent, the best resources, the best everything to make our equivalent of a Michelin star restaurant, but as a brand agency?
Yeah. Out of curiosity, why did he reach out to you?
He liked my content. He mentioned to me that, because I asked him the question directly, I just said to him, Simon, I was like, why did you want to work with me? You could work with Ogilvy, Pentagram, you could work with the big, massive legacy agencies. He just, without skipping a beat, frankly, just said to me, I fucking hate people in suits. You understand culture. I want to work with you. So he just was pretty staunch in his opinion that I don't want to work that way. I want to work in a way that's cutting edge. You're doing cutting edge content. You're doing bleeding edge material on what branding is. He was just consuming my content, my carousels, and he found them relevant to the way he sees the world. That was enough to start a conversation, which was enough to get on a Zoom call, which was enough to then agree to work together. And again, I got to give him the credit. Like, he was really the driving force. I was just able to help collect what he was talking about and make it make sense.
That feeds into my next point just regarding personality. Like, he obviously, he didn't want to work with people in suits. He resonated with you. I think building a personal brand, like people that I see doing really well, they're just unapologetically being themselves. Like, no one can copy their personality, and they're just being authentic and owning it. But I feel like, and this is my question, if you're building a business brand, like, how do you build the personality? Like, is it an extension of the founder? Like, how does that work?
Really great question. I think it's that there's one way of looking at it, which I'll share with you, and then there's a second lens as well. So the first way of looking at it is from a book called There's No Bad Parts, which is based on Carl Jung's psychology, which essentially talks about every human being has different parts to themselves. So I'm sure there's a part of yourself when you're back home in Byron Bay, when you're around your friends you grew up with, there's a part of yourself that acts a certain way. Then there's a part of you that's on this podcast interacting with people in business. Then there's a part of you that's with your partner. Then there's a part of you that's with your mother. You have different relationships, different dynamics with different people. I think people have this fear when they start making content. They're like, I don't want to tell people everything. And you don't have to. It's a part of yourself. It's the entertainment part of yourself, the educational part of yourself. You're not showing everything. identifying what part of yourself resonates with the public audience, and then you're giving your energy into that. So it's not inauthentic. It's not fake it till you make it. It's just you're playing a part of your ego spectrum in a healthy way. The other way of looking at it, the second way of looking at it is like Disney, I can send this graphic to you and you can put it up on the screen if you want. It's fantastic. But there's this wheel that Disney has, and essentially there's the top, the bottom, east and the west. And there's like different pizza pie slices of this pizza. The entry coming in is this is what Disney used to sell toys. So if you think about Frozen, you think about any successful Marvel campaign, the reason that children buy toys is because you fill out a story arc for a character. So when you're producing content on social media, there's a few things that people identify closely with your story. And that is, what's your origin story? Where did you come from? Then there's the moment, the defining moment that started to change you. Then there's the transformational journey that you go on. Then you go from your current world to your new alter ego. Then when you have your new alter ego, you have catchphrases, you have slogans, you have an outfit, you have characteristics and traits and kind of a personality driving it. North of this is your allies, people that are playing support for the character to win. Then south is the enemies, the things that are getting in the way, the obstacles. So if you take someone like Gary Vee, his origin story, grew up in Belarus, parents migrated to America, father owned a liquor store. He spent every weekend working in the liquor store. His defining moments was when the internet came online and he heard that dial-up tone. And he talks about this. Then it's him going on the internet, building ylibrary.com, and then going from the kid that worked with his dad in the liquor store to Gary Vee that we know today. He has catchphrases. He has an outfit. He has a personality style. Filling out this wheel is important. The other part is he has his friends and allies. So early on, he had D-Rock, who was his videographer, who was like behind the camera. And then these enemies are impatience, people that are fearful, people that aren't kind. He has these metaphorical enemies. But then there's some kind of destination that he's trying to get to that doesn't matter whether he wins or not, but we like the fact that he's on the journey to try and do it, and that's he's trying to buy the New York Jets. So in this wheel, essentially what's happening is, as a public brand, you're trying to fill the wheel out. So we know Tony Robbins' story. We know Richard Branson's story. We know Taylor Swift's story. We know Stephen Bartlett's story. The better you can fill this wheel out, the more people will fall in love with you as a character. So simultaneously, you're trying to have a niche, you're trying to have a thing, while also trying to have a character wheel that you're trying to fill out. So for example, I have a character wheel that most of my biggest fans know about me, and that's something that you're trying to project publicly. Now you can curate this story. It doesn't have to be rags to riches every time, but it just has to be interesting. It has to be a before, a middle, and an after. It's just human nature to be attracted to a story. And the last piece I'll give anyone who wants to research this is if you look up Donald Miller's book, How to Build a Story Brand, everything in that book is pretty accurate. So if you're trying to crush it on social media, you're basically picking a part of yourself and making it public. But it doesn't have to be all of you. Like, I don't share my children. I don't share my personal life. I don't show myself in the gym. I just purely show up and I'm like, here's educational resources around personal branding and corporate branding. And that's kind of like the part of myself that's public.
For people listening to this who might think they've got a shit story.
Yes.
Like you mentioned Dan Martell at the beginning, like he used to drink a lot, caused a lot of trouble. You might think that's a shit story. But if you look in retrospect back, like that's the backbone of, I guess, who he is today.
Yeah.
And so for someone listening to this who thinks they've got a bad story, like how vulnerable do you get around putting that out?
Great question. Like there's parts to my story that are pretty vulnerable and pretty private that aren't public. And there's parts of it that are. So like the part that is, and here's the thing is everyone has a story. So whether you think it's shit or not, someone might think it's interesting because a story is about just relevance, right? So like if, let's just say you grew up in a nice family and you had a pretty okay childhood and nothing was too crazy, but you felt an itch that there was more to life and you got tired of your job one day and you quit and you decided to go out and start a business. That might not be an exceptionally quote unquote exciting as a story. Yeah. But that might be really exciting to someone else who's going through the exact same thing. Storytelling is about relevance. It's about me too. I know how you feel. I can relate. So relevance is relative. It's Mikasa Sekusa. Like it's you and I can bond because I grew up skateboarding and surfing in Byron Bay. You grew up in Byron Bay. there's a closer connection between the two of us. We kind of understand parts of each other
Yeah.
deeper than someone who hasn't surfed or grew up in Byron Bay
Yes.
that can't connect with. So I think for you and I, and for those listening, everyone has an interesting story. It's all about, where did you come from? What was a defining moment where everything changed?
Yeah.
What was the journey that you went on, the lessons you learned, the enemies you were fighting, the allies that you partnered with, and what are you trying to get to at the end? Because it's not like the story's over.
Yeah.
People love a story that's on its way. So with myself, people are like, man, Dain's trying to build this massive agency. 4 years ago, he was working at Telstra. Like, this is not an exciting story. It's like a guy building an agency who's quit a job he hates, right? But there's a start, there's a transition, there's a future, and then there's a fight against the enemies. There's a partnership with the allies. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So whatever your version of that is, just go public, and you'll see people DM you and comment that they too have a similar story and they too would like to connect with you.
What about storytelling in your content? I read a book, Talk Like Ted. I think it was by Carmine Gallo. He's like a communication expert. Like, he analyzed Steve Jobs, and I remember he has 9 secrets as to like how to present like a savage. And one of the secrets was like storytelling, because he analyzed the best TED Talks, like Simon Sinek, and like out of like the 19 minutes, like Simon Sinek's is storytelling for like 16 or 17 minutes. And all the top TED Talks, they're just one big story. So I guess if you're like putting content just out there, let's say video, like, is it important to be constantly, do you think, incorporating stories?
I think so, especially now. I think there was maybe 5 years ago an era of Instagram where photos were enough. Then the internet got drowned with photos.
Yeah.
Then it became talking head content. Now the internet's kind of getting tired of that. I think where it's seemingly going is people are just kind of in the moment. Like, how can I, by proxy, live your life through the lens of Instagram or TikTok or whatever? I think people want to get access to what's really going on. And that's storytelling, like day-to-day storytelling. Like, it's why people get addicted to reality TV. It's why people watch Keep Up with the Kardashians. They want to, by osmosis, pretend that they're living your life in some ways, or get a taste of like, what's it like to be a CEO of a design agency? What's it like to be, a founder of a SaaS company? Like, giving people unequivocal access to look behind the veil is fascinating. And I think that's why we're seeing the era of not only founder-led content, but employee-led content. Like, now companies have employees that are showing on Instagram and TikTok, like, hey, this is what it's like to work here. This is the stuff I'm up to. It just seems like people are starting to develop a second part of their personality digitally. Not that it's fake, but it's like a digital contortion of their personality. And this is now more native to Gen Z and Alpha, and now some millennials than it has been to the old guard. And if you look at the old guard, like north of 50, they're kind of looking at it and have been looking at it for the last 3 years of like, this is kind of stupid and silly and frivolous. And then now, Stephen Bartlett has, signed a deal with WME.
Yeah.
So now it's like, oh, okay, this isn't a game anymore. People are starting to realize that this digital personality is important. It's viable. It adds credibility and relevance to your stature as a businessman or businesswoman. But the storytelling piece is what makes it real.
Yeah.
So it's not just like textbook information. You're like, this is a human being living out an experience that's interesting to me for some reason. I'm going to continue to pay attention because I want to see what happens next. It's like when you watch a TV show and you're like, I can't stop watching. It's like that shitty midday movie that you're like, I just need to know where this story goes.
Yeah.
And one of those stories for me is Poor Boy Coffee. So if you go onto TikTok and Instagram, there's a guy running a cafe. And the story is basically, I'm struggling to run a cafe. I'll show you my numbers and my reports every day to show you what's happening. And people are just lining up out the door of his cafe every morning because they want to support his story. They want him to succeed at running a cafe. It doesn't matter if you're not in the same industry as them. People just like human beings doing things and creating stories. And it's been attractive to us since, the dark ages.
Yeah. Have you seen Matt Gray online?
No.
He's an American dude, built a killer personal brand, all organic. And going back to what you were saying, like, he's less doing head talking now and more just being super creative with his storytelling through B-roll, him talking over, just a really different approach. And I'm starting to get drawn to these people who are just being super creative now, just with their reels versus just the stock head to camera.
100%. And that's something that the team and I are working on as we speak, because we've been doing a lot of talking head content because it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
But now we're like, okay, we've got to roll up our sleeves and give people something far more raw like a lot of people in our community have been asking, like, what's it like running the agency? Like, we never get to see behind the scenes. We never get to see you with the team designing logos or with the team doing strategy and copywriting, or me in a workshop. So we're trying to identify ways we can give people more access to what's really happening inside the company. But yeah, storytelling, I'm not an expert at it, but from what I understand, people are just really inherently attracted to human beings that are either A, like them, or B, they want to be like. So think about all the people that you follow on social media. A, you probably go, man, I really connect with their lens on the world.
Yes.
I share the same moral compass as them. I have the same belief system. Like, we like to be around people like us, or people that potentially challenge us. We would like to be like them in some way, shape, or form. So I don't want to be exactly like David Goggins. I don't want to live David Goggins' life. But there's a part of me that's like, when I'm at the gym or when I'm going for a run, I'm like, I kind of want to live that fantasy a little bit of being a little bit David Goggins-esque. So the story part of people is a part of you resonates with that person and would like to aspire to be like them. Those are really the two things that drive social media, is especially when we were looking at following as like a primary metric on someone's value. That's obviously changed. People don't care about followers anymore, and the algorithms don't work that way anymore. But I guess just to hit the punchline here, like, you're either following someone because you want to be like them, or you feel like you are like them, or it's hate bait. You like to hate them.
Which is a bit disappointing.
Yeah, like, you like to put that part of your rage out, and a part of your rage likes to rage out. So then it's like, it's a weird thing, but yeah.
I want to shift gears to like the psychology behind branding, like the psychological triggers. And I don't understand this. So I want to kind of hear it from you. But I look at like Patagonia. That's a brand that I'm psychologically, I feel like, invested in. Yeah, like ethical sourcing, a bit like with Feastables with Mr. Beast. Like, they care about that. All the materials are non-toxic. Like, I surf a lot, so the wetties aren't toxic. And then, like, what I like most, like, if my zip breaks on the wetsuit, which it does because I don't wash it and it gets heaps of salt, instead of like replacing the wetty, they repair the zip.
Right.
You just give it and they repair the zip, because I don't want to like...
I didn't know they did that. That's
so
fantastic.
You can take in anything and they just repair it. And then the founder, I think, like in 2022, he now donates all profits, I think it's like 100 mil a year, to environmental causes. And so I'm emotionally, I feel like, invested in that brand.
Yeah.
So like, when you're building a brand, like, how do you think about the psychology and those triggers to really get the customer like glued to the brand?
There's a great book. I can't remember the title of the book, but it's from the author Alan Dibbs, and he talks about how branding is tribalistic, right? So you're a surfer, you care about the environment, you have land, you grow fruit, like, you're a man of the earth. So then when you see a brand that symbolizes, again, like for like, they see the world the way I see it. They care about the things I care about. They believe the things I believe. When you're having this experience with a corporation or an entity that kind of symbolizes in some way, shape, or form that lifestyle, then we can't help but be captivated by it because it's like ourselves. We can't reject things that are like us. And I would say, how do you build a brand? In Alan Dibbs' words, he was saying, imagine you're in town and there's a parade. But there's no leader to the parade. But the parade are like-minded. They're a hive of people that see the world a certain way. A great brand will identify a tribe that's not being led, and they'll go out and they'll lead the parade. Rather than trying to build your own parade, find a parade that exists and go and lead it. So I think when people are building a brand, they think about it like, I got to build this thing from scratch. Whereas the pros go, there's a community being undervalued, underserved. Let's show up in a way that's authentic to them and build a brand around that community and lead that parade better than anyone else. And what I challenge our clients with at Rival is I say to them, if you can't be number 1, 2, or 3, why are you fighting in that space? Like, if you want to be wealthy and you want to crush, we need to be number 1, 2, or 3 at something, or at least get on the warpath of trying to earn that position. So Patagonia do a great job, like you said. There's a few other brands that do similar things to them in different ways. But to really service a community that's where brand lives. Like, if you just sell a product and you're cheap and you're affordable and you got great reviews, you might not have a brand. You might have a product that people want to buy. A brand is like, I'm going to ride or die Patagonia until I die. Like, that shit is dope. I love that they repair the zippers, etc. Like, I'm an Apple ride or die fan. and it's going to take someone a lot of work to get me off the Apple brands, right? Because Steve Jobs has done a number on me. But to pull this home, I think that if you're building a brand, you have to think about, okay, who's the tribe I'm trying to lead? And who's trying to lead that tribe right now? And how do I get an edge over them? And when I looked at the market, I couldn't see anyone who ran an agency in the Asia Pacific teaching people how to brand. It was kept behind a guarded gate, and it was only for those that were in their affiliate network. Here I am out on the street going, hey, I'll lead the parade. No one's leading this parade. Let me teach you guys how to build personal branding. Let me teach you guys how to make your own brands. And now people in the parade are popping up and doing their own version of what I'm doing, which is fantastic. So like you're inspiring your parade when they start to go create their own parades.
Yes.
And I think that I'm not trying to take credit for that, but like people were doing it before me, but I felt that like I really took the parade in a unique direction and built an agency with it. And it's if you can get people to care about your service, your product, what it is that you're doing, to the point where they would drive 6 hours to hear you speak, they would download every episode of your podcast. Like that's when you can start building fandom. That's when you know that your brand is starting to get roots and it's starting to captivate a segment in the market.
If you're looking to build a brand, let's say you're listening to this, early stage founder, or you even could be a bit mature, but you haven't built a personal brand. You haven't really invested the time, the energy, the sweat into your business brand. What do you do first? Or do you build them simultaneously together?
I have a theory that they should be built simultaneously.
Okay.
And I can send you the graphics so you can put this up if you want, because it's kind of nuanced and it'll add, sentiment to what I'm about to say. But I imagine it like a figure eight loop, right? Like the entry point is if you have a personal brand and that personal brand produces media and content, that will garner attention.
Yeah.
Then you take that attention and you loop it into feeding it into your business.
Yeah.
Your business will make money. Then you'll get a stack of credibility, and then it loops back. So the more successful your business is, the more successful you become. Yeah. The more successful you become, the more successful your business becomes. They feed each other. And I think that when you separate the two, you're setting yourself up for failure. I think the people that are winning right now are taking their personal brands, they're taking their corporate brands, and they're making them harmonious. They're feeding them together. Gary Vee builds VaynerMedia, VaynerMedia builds Gary Vee. Hormozi builds School, School builds Hormozi. Richard Branson built Virgin. Virgin makes Richard Branson a big shot. So I think this isn't a new concept. Yeah. But if you go back to the 80s, it was called key person of influence.
Yeah.
Then that turned into the early 2000s, like an influencer. That's now turned into a personal brand. It's the same thing. It's just been relabeled a bunch of times. And then the way the label hits a little bit different. But to do this now, I would say that if you want to crush your competition and they don't have a personal brand, and you can be the first one to go out and lead your parade and give them better educational resources, better entertainment, better material, a better virtual relationship than any of your competitors, you're going to smoke them. Like in 4 years, I've done what other competitors in my industry have spent 2 decades trying to build. Just by making a lot more noise, having a lot more conversations, and funneling a lot more leads faster. And the biggest issue that I have in my business, and I'm constantly having arguments with financial people, is they're like, Dain, you need to build a business that runs on retainership. My entire business is run on projects, which is, it sounds terrifying. We go from project to project to project. But the reason we can do that is because I've got a line out the door because of my personal brands. Now, one day that might end, but my advantage is I can get more new projects faster than you can keep your retainers. And that's just built an accelerator for our brands to grow faster, have more optionality, have more financials, have more media power, and have more, reach than any of our competitors combined.
So the traditional agency model is retainer?
Yeah, like typically, because typically the argument is let's get a batch of clients, let's lock them into a 6 to 12 month contract, and let's find a way to service them month on month. Our agency is like, what's the next brand we can go work on? Which sounds ludicrous because we're trying to make single hit after single hit after single hit, and allowing that momentum to get new projects for us.
Yes.
Because once we finish building a brand, we're like, good luck. They're like, can you run our marketing and our advertising? Nope, here's a marketing agency. Here's an advertising agency. That's not what we do. We build brand strategy. We develop brand identities. We build personal branding. But then even with the personal branding, people turn around and say, Dain, can you help me manage my personal brands? My answer is no. Let's build a team around you and let's us together work on developing them over the course of maybe 6 months. But my objective is to get you to run independent of me. because I only have the ability to maybe support 5 personal brands at any given time.
Okay.
And I currently work with 4. But when I'm working with them, it's taxing, it's time consuming. I'm thinking about them on the weekend. I'm thinking about them at night. I'm trying to get them the advantage. But the objective is, how do I get their team around them to do the job, to manage their brands? Because that's their brands. I don't want to stay in that place. I want to move into the next project. So what I'm trying to say is, our competitors try to lock down their clients on a retainer because that's the only way that they can sustain business. I've been able to sustain business because our personal brand continues to accelerate and grow, which continues to create a line out the door, which continues to allow us to hand select the brands that we want to build month to month.
Super interesting. So it seems like you really investigated and researched your industry, saw some of the deficiencies, right? Like really looked at it and thought, no one's giving out educational resource.
No one.
They're all taking fucking retainers every month. And how can I be as you said, number 1, 2, or 3? And it's amazing that you like spent the time actually assessing that.
Well, we continuously out-compete our competitors' quotes because they're like trying to get clients to lock into a 12-month retainer. And I'm like, I'll build this brand in 4 months. And they're like, well, let's go with Dain. And I'm so confident. The pitch is so different because I'm like, I don't want you to pay me forever. I want to crush your brands. I want to train you up. I want to make you independent. I want to make you not need me. If you want to throw money at me and hang out, I'm cool with that. But I want to put you in the position where you can be independent. And people are like, hell yeah, dude. Like, I have personal brands we're working with right now. I'm helping them hire their media team. I'm helping them implement their content creation process. I'm helping them develop literally podcast studios. Like, I'm giving it all away. I'm not trying to hide any of this. Like, I give it away on social media for free. People pay me to make it make sense for them and to put it in structure and put it in order to help facilitate and keep them accountable and help them create a system. Then I'm like, they're like, it's like in Wizard of Oz, it's like, fly my pretties. Like, I'm trying to just get them to go out and do their own thing and crush it. Rather than be dependent on me. There's a part of me that just gets grossed out with trying to lock people into a contract. I don't inherently feel like I should. I don't think it's the right thing. I believe in giving people the power to do it themselves. And which comes back to one of the things I really deeply believe in, which is Socratic thinking.
Okay.
I don't want to tell you what to think. I want to teach you how to think for yourself. And when I work with students, it drives them nuts because they're like, just tell me what to think. And I'm like, going through a different frame of thinking. I'm like, how do I get you to think for yourself? Because that's the only way you can win. You can't win in business if you're constantly asking what other people think you should do.
Yeah.
You win in business by learning how to think for yourself, how to solve your own problems and drive it your own way.
So you said you got 4 clients for branding?
Oh, we have almost 100 clients.
Okay.
Yeah.
But majority are B2B.
Majority of them are B2B.
Yeah.
I would say probably 15 to 20% of what we do now is personal brands.
Okay.
For example, we worked with Andrew Schultz. Right now we're engaging with Dan Martell. Yep. There's a few other people that we're speaking to with potentially partnering with. But yeah, we do a lot of personal branding, but this is like, I would say the new trend right now is the conversation. Let me rephrase it this way. 5 years ago when I started, people were like, what exactly is a personal brand? 4 years ago, tell me more about this personal branding stuff. 3 years ago, should I do a personal brand? 2 years ago, I'm thinking about starting a personal brand. 2025, help me start a personal brand. So I've noticed over the last 5 years, I probably entered the market too early, and I was talking about personal branding like in the way that is topical now. I was talking about this 5 years ago. Even our book, right? We launched it in August last year. It had a good amount of success, but now it's even more successful because it just seems like we've just hit the hotspot of everyone going, fuck, I need to build a personal brand, like now. And I'm talking about like people that have run companies for 30, 40 years are now coming to me. People that have run legacy businesses north of 50, and they're between 50 and 500 million are like, hey man, how do I do this personal branding stuff? Like, help me get started now.
Why do you think people are having this realization in 2025?
Because now it's, we're staring down the barrel of AI. We're staring down the barrel of a massive shift in the market. People are now familiar with podcasting. People are now seeing how much money founders that are starting businesses 2 minutes ago are making. So if you've spent 30 years building a suit business and you've grinded your way to the top and now you're making 50, 60, 70 million, then you see the guys from LSKD pop up out of like 5 years and go $50 million business. They're like, hang on, how did these guys do it? They're using influencer marketing. They're using a great founder-led brand. Why are they doing it so quickly? Well, they're getting traction faster because they're more relevant than you. They're more credible than you. And they're digitally native. And people are realizing that the threats have amounted to a point where they don't have the option anymore. They've had the luxury to ignore this for 5 years and put their head in the sand and go, it's not important, I don't care about it. Really, there's only 5 things that are stopping these people from doing personal branding, and those listening to this that are considering it. Number 1 is I'm scared.
Yeah.
I'm terrified. They might say something like, I hate social media. Well, do you hate it? Or do you just not understand it and it's scary? It's usually an ego thing. I'm scared and it doesn't make sense to me, but if you spent the time researching it and you got familiar with it and just fucked with it for a couple months, you'd be like, it's actually not that scary. I could get started. Number 2 is, what are my friends going to think of me? My colleagues are going to judge me. My wife's going to judge me. My husband's going to judge me. My kids will think I'm weird. It's just fear of what others will think of you. 3 is, I'm not very good. Like, I don't think I got a lot to share. But if you're running a successful business or you're a deep domain expert, there's a tremendous amount you can share that would be interesting to someone else. Number 4 is people are like, well, is it really worth the investment? All this time and editing and content creation just seems like a headache. It just seems time consuming. Is it really worth it? If you're good, yes. And usually, again, it doesn't feel like it's worth it because people don't really understand the ROI of doing it properly and the magnitude of money by which you can make. And then lastly, is just like, well, where do I get started? Like, at what point do I even get traction?
Yeah.
So these 5 things are usually the things that startup people bring up, and the same exact things that the billionaire brings up. I've sat across from billionaires and talked to them about personal branding. I've sat across from Startup Susie, who's like, I want to start a personal brand, who's never had success in business and wants to teach business or wants to teach life skills or what have you. The fears are at both ends of the spectrum, which tells me they're just innately human. So just because you're rich or just because you're starting up, you don't have any advantage or disadvantage with social media. Like, it's free. You can create an account. You can start talking today. But the point I'm trying to get at is personal branding. The reason why this is so topical right now is because the amount of money that's being shifted in the market. So Goldman Sachs brought out a stat, and it was in the next 5 years. And this was, I think, from 2022 to 2027, that 5-year gap.
Yeah.
The market went from the influencer creator market has gone from 220 billion and it's on its way to 480 billion. So we're talking about a double in an industry in a 5-year window. There's big money in this. And you're seeing it happening in the podcast space. You're seeing this happen in the business realm. You're seeing this happen on TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. Like, we're living in a digital first world. Business is done virtually first now. 5 years ago, it was done physically first. The shift is it's virtual first. We're living in a virtual first business world, and you need to get on the train or you're going to be left behind.
Those 5 things, I hit 4 of them. And I only started 12 months ago. It was just the only one that didn't resonate with me was the friends. Everything else was just like bang on.
Yeah. And you probably like, I don't care what my friends think of me, right? Your friends like, they love me and accept me for who I am. But I have this, a quick story was when I started, I remember, I talk about this in the book as well, but I was saying that like the first 2 weeks of making content on Instagram, all my colleagues at Telstra were like, what the fuck is Dain doing? Like, people were gossiping. They were saying shit behind my back. People were saying to my face, like, what's the deal with your Instagram? And a part of me was like, maybe you should quit. Maybe you're not that great. Maybe you're an idiot. But another part of me was like, fuck it. Like, I want to have a crack anyway. So like, there is this voice in our head. And I joke that in all of our minds, we have a 3-year-old that's like, I don't want to be judged. I don't want to do it. I'm tired. I'm hungry. Like, we have this voice in our head, and it shows up with personal branding. And it's basically ego. It's fear. And human beings, we're tribal creatures. We don't want to be ostracized. We don't want to be rejected from the crowd. So social media really, from a personal branding perspective, puts everyone's fear under the spotlight.
Yeah.
And it's a great way to personally develop yourself, is to be scared and do it anyway.
Yeah. You came from a background, I'm shifting gears, in sales, right? Like, you sold insurance?
Yeah, quite a few sales jobs.
Like, sales, it's so important, right? Like, I was out for dinner with a mate last night who specifically, he's a sales guy. He builds sales teams. He helps specifically influencers because they've got all the fucking audience. They've got great content, a lot of them, but they've never run a business. A lot of them are broke. They don't have offers, and they don't know how to monetize basically their distribution. And so he's basically working with some of those. And I guess sales is so important, right? I guess it's interdependent with marketing. And you were saying that a lot of your business comes through Insta, and we'll talk about sell by chat. But I guess where I'm getting at is like, what are some of these advanced sales tactics that you're seeing out there? Like with Hormozy, with his book, $100 million leads, he gave out the digital copy for free. He gave out a lot of bonuses. Even with his free course, there was the live webinar, 500,000 people. Everyone thought they were going to pay for it. They get to the end and he's like, it's for free. Like, what are you seeing out there that's really cool in relation to sales that supports marketing?
There's a tactic I suspect Hormozy's using. And there's a theory I have, and there's evidence to back this up. You can find this on the internet. But essentially, it's like time spent virtually with someone. The brain does not acknowledge the difference between me sitting in front of you here or me listening to 50 hours of your media online.
Interesting.
For example, I have, let's imagine this. Like we met each other briefly for the first time today, and it takes by nature about 4 to 12 hours to become an acquaintance. And then it's like maybe about 32 hours to become an associate, and then 54 hours to become a friend. That's the scientific data. You can find this on the internet.
Interesting.
So virtually, if Hormozy is to do an online program or to write a book, and you're reading his book for 5 hours, then you're listening to his 4-hour webinar, then you're doing his 8-hour online program, then you're listening to his YouTube channel, and you've accumulated 54 hours of consuming Hormozy's content. Your brain doesn't know the difference between him being a friend or not. So if you ever saw him in person, your physiology would react as though you know him.
Yes.
Because I had this experience at an airport. I was flying from LAX to Mexico, and I turned around and Lewis Hauser was behind me. I was like, Lewis, what's up, man? Just immediately, physiologically, he's my friend. Never met him in my life. He looks at me perplexed. He's like, hey. And I was like, oh shit, we don't know each other. What's up, man? I'm a huge fan. We're flying to Mexico together. We're doing an event together. Like, a huge fan. Love your work. And him and I hung out for like 6 hours at the airport. It was a ton of fun. But like, what I'm trying to get at here is physiologically, like people are consuming Alex Hormozy's content at scale.
Yeah.
The game he's playing is if I can get you to consume my content and hang out with me virtually, you'll inevitably buy something.
Yes.
Why? Because I'm top of mind. I'm the number one option in your head. If you ever need help with sales, if you ever need help with your business growing, you're not going to go anywhere else except for my domain, which is school, acquisition.com. Yeah. Acquisition.com is the upper echelons.
Yes.
You know, the people that are making tens of millions of dollars are going to acquisition. The people that are getting started are going to school. Then he's developing steps and layers in between the two. The interesting thing that Hormozy's doing is he's taking people from the beginning all the way to the ends, and he's unlocking it in stages. So for example, the first book he wrote, which is about basically how to sell. And then the second book is more about the deep monetization. And then the third stage is all about financial and how to manage the financials. When I was chatting to Cam, our media producer, he was saying he actually wrote the financials book first, but then he switched to the sales book because the financials book wasn't going to slap with the startup business owners. So it's almost like imagine starting a crab net at the startup business level and then dragging that thing all the way to the upper echelons while simultaneously doing business at the top of town as well. I think this is fundamentally what he's done well is he's understood how do I start at the beginning and then level up my community with me all the way to the top. But he's done that through building a virtual friendship.
Yes.
This is the new age of selling, is how do I make friends at scale through long format content, through 3 resources. And this is how we've developed the majority of our client base is they've consumed my book or they've consumed our podcast or they've consumed my content for 3 months or they've listened to tons of our episodes on YouTube. Then they just reach out and say, I want to work with you.
Yes.
I've basically already done the sale through the relationship.
Yeah.
Back to I want to do business with people like me or people I want to be like. I've solved that problem. They come to me and they're basically like, how much?
Yeah.
Whereas the old school way of doing it is door knocking, cold calling, trying to hustle your way to the top. The new age of selling is relationship building at scale.
Interesting. I was asking you about your sales like historical career because if I look at if you're running a non-technical business, like you don't need the left brain. I feel like Hormozy, let's look at him and even look at you, like he's a gun at sales.
Oh, brilliant.
Gun at marketing.
We can go into sales tactics if you want.
Yeah, and same with you. Like you obviously knew how to sell.
Yeah.
Expert at marketing. Like it's a fucking lethal combination.
It's an epic combination. So if you can do what he's doing and produce media at scale, the second skill that you need to back that up with is you do need to master sales.
Yes.
I think what's given me an unfair advantage over my competitors is a lot of them are creatively led.
Yes.
I'm certainly creatively led, but I'm also ruthlessly commercial. So the tagline we have at Rival is wildly creative, ruthlessly commercial. You need both sides. Like creative needs to meet business.
Yes.
And I think that you can be too creative, you can be too business, but if you can bring the two together, fuck, it's like magic. But sales tactics, I think what allowed me to make the most of that energy is when essentially they get on a call. We have 5 steps to our sales process. The first step is the meet and greet. What's up, man? Great to meet you. How did you find me? What brings you here? Tell me about yourself. What are you doing? You open up the conversation. Number 2 is a needs analysis. What do you need? Like, what's keeping you up at night? And what would you like instead? Tell me what you need. Let's unpack this. I need a new website. I need content. I need a logo. What else? What else? What else? You just go through the what else's until they're like, that's it. I've exhausted everything.
Yeah.
Then you poke and prod. Then you're like, what about this? Have you considered EDMs? Have you considered meta ads? Have you considered a personal brand? Nope. So you're just adding more to their needs analysis.
Yeah.
Once you have their needs analysis complete, you literally bullet point it back to them. Okay, so you need a new website? Yes. You need a new logo? Yes. You need this, and this. Do you think if you had all of that stuff, you wouldn't be up at night? Yeah, man, that would solve my problem. Then you add pain to it. How long has this been a problem for? 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. How badly do you want this pain to go away? Freaking immediately, man, make the pain go away. So you do step 1, meet and greet. Step 2, needs analysis. Step 3, repeat it back to them. Step 4 is you present. Cool. So I would suggest moving forward, we do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and this is the impact it'll have on your business. Step 5 is close the deal. Are you ready to get started? Let's close the deal. Obviously, there's nuances to each of those stages, but every sales process is those 5 steps. Whether you listen to Jordan Belfort or Grant Cardone or Robert Kiyosaki or Hormozi, it's always the same 5 steps. Whether that be virtual or one-on-one like this, if you can master those 5 steps, you can sell anything you need to make your business successful.
I think what you said earlier is so profound about like that creativity / like lack of sales, because I've been pitched so much in the past by creatives and their sales process is awful. You don't even hear back from them. They just leave. Yeah. They don't care about, and I think that's where they're deficient, right? And I feel like having that superpower of sales and creativity, it's powerful.
Well, let's invert it for a minute, right? So then let's just say that's the 5 steps to get the sale.
Yeah.
What are the 3 reasons why they would not buy?
True.
So the 3 reasons they would not buy is number 1, I don't like you, the person. So number 1 is person. Number 2 is the price. The price does not make sense for what I get. And number 3 is the product. If I don't like you, I don't like the price point, I don't like the product, I'm not buying. Yeah. If I like you and the price is okay, but I don't like the product, I'm still not buying. Or if I don't like you, but the product's great and the price is fantastic, I'm still not buying. You need to unlock all 3. So you need to be someone that people like. You need to have a price that is equivalent to what they perceive the value to be, and the product needs to slap.
Yeah.
So like, for example, Rival is essentially my product, right? So the product needs to look great, needs to look like we do fantastic work. The price needs to justify what they get. And they need to think about this as a trade, as an exchange between you and me. If I give you this money, what do I get? Right? As if what I get is perceived to me to be of greater value than the money I part ways with, then that's a win for me. And then the win for you is if you make more money than it costs you to deploy the assets that I get, then you win. So we win-win. A sale is really a win-win exchange of energy. That's it. Good salespeople understand it's just an exchange. It's a trade. It's age old. It's a commodity. I give you the money, you give me the deliverables, right? So people that hire me, they go, Dain, one of the wildest stories that we ever had was Tara and Barry, who started the brand Vumi. So we did the naming, we did the logo, we did the package design, the colors, we built the website, we did everything for that brand. And she launched, and in the first 24 hours, she sold out.
Okay.
So she made way more money than she paid me to build the brand. So she wins because she's made a ton of profit.
Yeah.
I win because I had an epic project to add to my portfolio. That's the point, is like, if you can create a win-win. But like, how do you then make it make sense for those online is like, publicly, can you get people on Instagram to go, I like this person?
Yeah.
Well, that's step 1 taken care of. Hormozi's dealt with step 1.
Yeah.
Step 2 is the price. Well, I like his product. It totally makes sense. He gave it away for free in a webinar. If he gave this away for free, imagine what's going to happen if I pay him. Price is dealt with. Lastly is the product. Is the product good? We're drowning in testimonials from Alex Hormozi's community. So then you're like, it has to be good. That's the point. He's virtually solving for the 3 Ps.
But those 3 Ps, right? Person, price, product. I'll use you as an example. So person, tick, like just seeing you online. Price, I don't know.
Yeah.
But when I was doing some research in regards to product, this is like coming from how I was thinking. I went to your website. I was like, this website's fucking sick. Like the user experience, the copy really stood out for me. I was like, this copy is good. And so like that actually just psychologically gave me a tick on your product. And then I saw Culture Kings and I saw a few other, obviously, social proof. But interesting, like the only missing piece for me would have been, I need to sit in front of you and hear price.
Right, and that's strategic because I want you to talk to my team.
Yeah.
Right? I want my team to have an opportunity to go, you like the product? Yes. You like Dain? Yes. You like me? Yes. Here's the price. So again, I can't solve that problem online because usually to give the nuance and the depth to the product to justify the price that we charge, I have to spend about an hour with a client to go through the full rigorous process that they're going to go through. And then that's usually when they go, hell yeah, this product really makes sense now. Then the price makes sense. The typical status quo in my agency is to not tell pricing. And that's because usually it's hard to justify the full breadth of a strategic brand project through the website, even though this copy slaps, the design slaps. But it's a great question. But that's strategic because I'm trying to incentivize people to go, what the fuck would this cost? Get on a call, talk to my team, and we can develop a relationship to then convert.
Yeah, because you're a brand agency, so the website should be good. But I guess how important is like websites? Because I went to your website and I was like, fuck, this is good. Like I haven't seen a good website in a long time. Not that I'm like searching websites all the time, but for a non-branding agency, like how important are websites in 2025?
I think that depends what you do with it. Right, so how important is it to have a samurai sword on your wall at any given time? Well, it depends, how you're going to use it, when you're going to use it. Weird metaphor, but like I think a website is a sales engine if you know how to use it. Most companies aren't doing SEO, they aren't doing ad campaigns, they aren't doing funnels, they're not doing rolling seasonal campaigns unless you're doing e-commerce. But like e-commerce, it like is the business in many ways, shapes, and forms. But for a service-based business or personal brands. A, it can establish credibility. B, it can establish relevance. Like we're relevant to you. We think like you. We're like you. But I would say a website is a landing position. Like people arrive. When they arrive, what are you going to communicate with them? But also, how do they get there? So for example, with our website, we run a lot of ads. My content directs to the website. Our podcast directs to the website. This event, whatever. Like people land on the website to find out additional information about us. I think it's paramount to helping convert the sales process. If you have a shit website, if it's not up to date, if it doesn't slap, then you're definitely losing money. But then simultaneously, even if you have a phenomenal website, but you're not marketing to it, it's also a waste of money.
Yeah.
So you have to have both. You have to have a great website that does its job, but then you also have to run marketing to it to convert, right? So it's like having a car lot with no cars, right? You have to get the cars to the car lot and then charge them for the tickets. You have to have both. So the marketing channels need to do a good job feeding the website with attention. Then the website needs to do a great job collecting that attention and converting them into sales appointments. Then the sales team need to do a great job converting those sales appointments into clients. And then we need to do a great job with the clients to then convert them into testimonials. And then we need to do a good job with the testimonials to add credibility to my personal brand. So it's a giant interlinked system.
Final question. Fast forward, like next few years. What are you thinking about? Like in the world of marketing and just like high level observations. What's like keeping you interested?
I think we're at a really interesting point in the space of branding. And myself and my business mentor, Josh Sparks, have been developing, and we're trying to add research to this to kind of add merit to what we're talking about. But essentially, there's been different eras in branding. The first era was like the 1800s. And essentially, think about any product from the 1800s, the way they would advertise and promote it as a brand is it won't kill you.
Yeah.
So like this, this product is made out of good flour and you're not going to die if you eat it, right? So like anti-death was a great marketing campaign in the 1800s. That was a monologue. So throughout the late 1800s, throughout probably up to about 1940, predominantly marketing and advertising, and branding wasn't even a term back then. It was all called advertising. But back then, advertising was essentially a monologue. That was the era of the monologue. I'll tell you what to do. Full stop.
Yeah.
Then we go into the 40s through to the 70s. That era was the Mad Men era. That's when the dialogue started. So we moved from monologue, I'll tell you, full stop, to let's have a conversation, which was when the Mad Men era was like, let's get 400 mothers to come in and give us feedback on these crackers and let them tell us if they think they would give them to their kids or not. Do they like the packaging? Do they like the font? Do they like the colors? It's a dialogue. Then we'll go back to monologue and we'll tell mothers of America, buy this product. So we went from monologue to dialogue. Then we went from dialogue through to like the, what I would say is like the sponsored by era. Michael Jordan is like Michael Jordan approved, Serena Williams approved. Like these celebrities endorse this product. It's kind of like the endorsement era. Then we quickly moved into, I guess you would see more of the, like a very short burst of the influencer era, but we're predominantly right now in the co-authorship era. What that means is brands have to co-author their narrative together with their community. So Red Bull don't lead the content, their community leads the content. GoPro don't lead their content, DJI don't lead their content, their community leads their content. The best brands right now that are doing the most bleeding edge material are completely community led. We'll create a core identity to the brand and you interpret the way you want to interpret this to your community. So Travis Pastrana is like, I'll interpret what Red Bull means to me through skydiving and doing stunts, right? You see brands like Hoonigan, you see brands like Liquid Death's a great example. The community-led content from Liquid Death is the reason why they've got a $1.3 billion valuation in the first 7 years is because all their marketing is predominantly led by their community and they just incrementally stoke the fire. So we're in the co-authorship era. The biggest brands that are murdering right now in fashion, products, apparel, business, economics, tech are co-collaborating with their communities. I think the next era we're moving into, and we're going to move into this era quickly, is the mass personalization era. So this is where people want to take full independence and full leadership, and they're like, I'll do whatever the fuck I want with the brands. That's kind of around the corner, and I think you're starting to see Nike do some of that kind of marketing. So Nike's been pretty good historically at like peeking around the corner a little bit early and testing stuff, and that's why you're able to do your own custom shoes, things of that nature. So I think, how do you capitalize on the era we're in right now? We're in the co-authorship era. Never has community been so important. Never has having a figurehead or a personal brand or a key person of influence for your company been so important. And if you don't want to do it for your business, find someone who does. Put that person in the spotlight. And the next era is really the community taking the reins. I don't know how that looks, but it's definitely heading in that direction.
Fucking love that. And that was fun. Thanks, Dain. That was fucking awesome.
You're welcome, man.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.